Hello, everybody. So my project is I'm going to be modeling Pectis imberbis with MaxEnt software in southern Arizona, Madrean grasslands. So here's some context. So this project is meant to assist the Coronado National Forest in modeling suitable habitat for their threatened and endangered species. It's currently a member of the Asteraceae family, which is also known as the sunflower family. There are 31 confirmed locations, and it might be found in northern Sonora, Mexico. However, no one has seen this plant species for the last 70 years. It faces numerous threats, including off-road vehicles, grazing, housing development, and mining. So I figured I'd start with this picture. This is the area that you would likely see Pectis imberbis. It likes to grow in grasslands and oak woodlands. This picture is more of an oak woodland setting. And it also likes to grow in disturbed areas on the sides of roads. And this is more of a grassland setting. And this is an oak woodland setting that one might also potentially find Pectis imberbis, or by its common name, bearded chinchweed. So today, we're going to talk about the methods that I used, the results that I obtained, and we'll have a brief discussion about my results. So this is a picture of bearded chinchweed, or Pectis imberbis. One might notice that it's a very slender plant. It grows to about 1 meter tall. It has long, narrow leaves, and it flowers only during monsoon season. So it's pretty hard to spot during the non-monsoon season. For anyone who's not familiar with the monsoon season, it goes from mid-July to mid-September. And I put this slide up because you see this plant, it's not the most charismatic plant. Sort of weedy, but I think it's pretty cool. So we need to look at this from a larger issue. If Pectis imberbis disappears, then we can face a loss of biological diversity. With less biological diversity, Arizona rangelands are more susceptible to disturbance, such as disease or invasive plants, or even fire. This sort of ties into, it has less, with Pectis imberbis, if that goes missing, or with other rangeland plants, with less biological diversity, the ecosystems are less productive. And also, this project is meant to serve as a roadmap to future habitat suitability modeling on the Coronado National Forest. So this is my study area. It includes Pima, Santa Cruz, and Cochise counties. And there are a total of 31 known Pectis imberbis locations. They're mainly concentrated around Nogales and in the Atascosa Mountains. There are 2 northern populations which were found by Westland Resources doing environmental impacts statement research for the Rosemont copper mine. So what does this study entail? This study entails using MaxEnt 3.3 to create a habitat suitability model for bearded chinchweed. I imported environmental raster layers, including climatic data, soils data, and vegetation data, along with DEM data. I created two models, logistic and binary. A logistic model entails, it's more of a continuous model, so it shows how likely Pectis imberbis is to occur in percent, versus a binary model, which either shows suitable habitat or non-suitable habitat. And of course, this model is to determine likely locations for Pectis imberbis. So the first thing I did was I extracted point and polygon data from the kind people at the US Forest Service, the National Park Service. They were pretty helpful. Thank you. Arizona Fish and Game. I didn't really talk to them very much, but they provided me with the data, so that was pretty cool. And Westland Resources. Those were the people who provided the 2 points near the Rosemont copper mine. So as I was saying, I obtained environmental raster data. It was soils, vegetation, climatic data, and digital elevation model data. I resampled the data to 30 meters to provide a more precise model. This data, these rasters were reprojected into UTM zone 12. I generated point data from polygon data. A lot of this data was collected like back in the 1930s through mainly the 1980s, and they oftentimes they weren't very precise about the collection of where the data was collected. So I created point data based on these field notes that I went through. The Maximum Entropy software, it will only take point data and ASCII raster files, which is just a raster format. I then also used SAS statistical software, and this put the 21 environmental layers, 19 of them were climatic layers, and the other ones were, as I was saying, it was the vegetation, digital elevation model, and soils. And we put them into clusters, and we found that temperature annual range, mean temperature of the coolest quarter, and precipitation of the warmest quarter best represented the data. We also used 10,000 Asteraceae background points. These served as pseudo-absence points where Pectis imberbis could occur, but does not occur. Then I ran the model 3 times, and I took out 1/3 of the points each time. And this was in order to assess model accuracy. So the first run, 1/3 of the points were taken out. The second run, another 1/3 of the points were taken out. And a third run, 1/3 of the points were taken out. As I was saying, there were a total of 31 points. and I averaged the 3 runs. This is where the known Asteraceae background locations. There were a total of 10,000 of them. So this is the logistic model. These darker areas show where it's more likely, where Pectis imberbis is more likely to occur versus the lighter areas. So we see a nice trend around Nogales, the Atascosa Mountains, and the Patagonia Mountains. And then I created a second model of either suitable habitat or non-suitable habitat, denoted by the green. So all said and done, the MaxEnt, or Maximum Entropy software, got an area under the curve value of 0.89, which means it did a good job at distinguishing Pectis imberbis points from random. Between 19 and 20% was found as suitable habitat, which was a little bit disappointing since ideally in these models you'd like to have suitable habitat that's less than 10%. It's just a more precise model. We found some pixels with a likelihood above 80%, which was pretty great. And suitable habitat for Pectis is around 7,000 hectares. In closing, if I were to do this model over again, the soils raster data was unfortunately incomplete, and I was unable to get soils data on the national forests. The Southwest regap data, which is the vegetation data, that was also, it's very categorical in nature, so it created a very imprecise model. So there'd be one pixel that said a 20% likelihood for Pectis imberbis, and then next door there would be a pixel with 90%. And nature just doesn't work like that. It's just more on a continuum. It's more gradual. Modeling suitable habitat is very complex. And hopefully this will be the start of future modeling projects. And finally, we need to preserve biological diversity. Hopefully, as a result of this project, bearded chinchweed can be the little flower that could. Today, we talked about the context for my project, the methods, the results. I shared a brief discussion recommending future workflows for a new habitat suitability model research. And thank you. I had a great time.